Hey everybody, what's up? It's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel, Real Talk Recovery, where we talk about recovery from addiction and I share my life with you. Today we have Mama Gina in the house. She's here to talk about how my addiction affected her life and how things have changed since I've gotten sober. So, Mom, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Miha. Thank you.
I really want to tell you thank you so much for answering these questions. It's going to help so many people. You would be surprised. There's a lot of moms out there who watch my channel who have kids who are struggling with addiction. So they look to us for support and hope and inspiration. So, first of all, I want to ask you, when I started using drugs, what was your first tip that I was going down the wrong road, the wrong path?
When I got the vibe from you that you were not respecting yourself. You didn't value yourself. There were a few questions you asked me when you were like 16, like about relationships with boys. And I remember turning around to you and saying, nobody can make you do anything you don't want to do. And if it makes you uncomfortable, you don't owe anybody else an explanation. And you looked at me funny.
Oh, okay, so when I started to get into relationships with boys, I was questioning whether I needed to be sexually active or not. And I was giving you the vibe that I was leaning towards getting sexually active. I probably was already. I started having sex when I was 17 with Robert. Robert was the first boy I ever had sex with. But my first boyfriend, John Ross, remember when I used to go over to his house? That was when I first started experimenting, but we never had sex. So yeah, that's where everything started, when I started to hang out with the boys and kind of go down the wrong path.
That's where I felt I was frustrated. I felt helpless because you weren't really asking for help. You were just you thought you were supposed to know it all, and there's no way anybody knows anything at that age.
Uh-huh.
And you weren't really open to me speaking into your life yet. You didn't really want my input. I think you felt like I was judging you.
Uh-huh. I don't remember if I felt like you were judging me. I think I was afraid because I remember thinking if I had sex before marriage, I was going to go to hell.
Well, you know that.
That was part of our how we were brought up, though, was that you save yourself for marriage,
Right.
Which, I mean, I understand having 3 girls, why a parent would want any parents. I mean, I want Nathaniel to save himself for marriage, but I don't think that is something that is, I wouldn't put that expectation on him because I know that I didn't meet that expectation,
Well, it wasn't even so much an expectation as much as it was you want to protect your children from experiences that they aren't, or that they're not emotionally ready for. A lot of people can handle a lot of things physically, but it doesn't mean that you're ready emotionally or mentally.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. Okay, so so after I started dating the boys and dating Robert, what are some things that you noticed in my behavior that was changing, that when you look back now, you're like, she was high? And what would you tell other mothers who have children who are 16, 17, 15, and they're getting into drugs and they're starting to notice these behaviors? What would you say to these moms, like, hey, these are some things you need to look out for?
The things that I noticed immediately, you always wanted to deflect. You always wanted to talk about your sister Michelle because she was the scapegoat. Because there were things going on with her that you knew I was very concerned about because she had no control over it. It wasn't something that she had any control over, so you would deflect. That was my first, looking back now, that was my first sign. My second sign was the friends changed. There was a big shift in who you were hanging out with, and you weren't bringing kids to the house anymore.
I wanted to go everywhere else, to everybody else's house.
Exactly. And I would say to mothers, do the hard thing and confront your kids. You have to be the parent. you have to call them out on their behavior, because pretending that it's going to go away, or we all work at that point. A lot of us are working outside the home, and we all come home tired. But the bottom line is, our number one job is to raise our kids. And when they're 15 and 16 and 17, they're still kids. And they're going to get into things just like they did when they were 3, 4, and 5. And you have to call them out on it. And you can't
Put the pressure on them.
Exactly.
Because that's what I think was going on with me. Y'all were trying to put the pressure on me to like know where I was going, but I was lying and I was being deceived. I remember like going to Leanne's house and staying at her house for like days, so then I could leave there and go to other people's houses, you know.
Right.
And that's the important thing, like for parents to get to know the people their kids are hanging out with. And to not just trust anybody. Even the parents. Don't trust the children's parents because
they're the addicts themselves and you don't even know it.
Right. Okay. That's good. Okay. So next. All right. So after I started getting high and I was abusing drugs, let's take it to when I caught my felony charge. Okay. That's when it was starting to get really bad. I got arrested for possession of a controlled substance. What was happening? What did you do then? Like, what was going on what were you and Dad trying to do when you figured out like, wow, she's got a problem. She's going to go to jail now.
Well, we felt like it was our responsibility for you to deal with the consequences, because we had tried to intervene. You know, your father tried to encourage you by buying things and telling you if you work hard, and he didn't really understand the sickness of addiction, the illness of addiction. And I had some experience because of my family background, and I knew that there was no bargaining with you, that I just had to let it play out. So your dad and I were trying to find the middle of the roadway where we could both be comfortable handling what was going to be going on. We were really depressed. It was a very dark time. We were dealing with your sister's, her self-medicating, your younger sister self-medicating, and her neuroses and her bipolar, and then we were dealing with your addiction and the path that it took you, and the fact that the two of you were feeding into each other. Because at that point in time, you were flopping at Michelle's house. She had Nick. I mean, it was a lot of stuff going on. I can remember, for myself personally, not for your father, I can remember, because that's back when I smoked, I can remember sitting out on the back porch, smoking a cigarette and thinking to myself, what had I done to deserve all this pressure? Because I felt responsible, even though I knew I wasn't. I felt like I was, because you guys were my kids. And you weren't coping well. You weren't living your best life.
Uh-huh.
So, and part of me was relieved that you caught the charge, Nicole.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That I knew where you were going to be. I knew that you were going to be in a place where you couldn't leave. I knew that you would have shelter, and I knew that you would have 3 meals a day.
Mm-hmm.
And that there was no way that you would kill anybody else on the road. Because I was always terrified that you were going to kill somebody. Because I was becoming as sick as you. Remember that time you called me and said, Mom, I've lost my car key. I can't get into my car. And like a freaking idiot, I took you another set of keys.
Yeah.
What was I thinking?
Yeah, I know. I lost it at the bar. I never found that key ever after that.
But that's what I'm saying. Sometimes we get sucked into our family's trauma, and we become as sick as the addict. Because I look back now and I think, what was I fucking nuts? I mean, what was
you should have just left me without a key, so that way I couldn't have drove anymore.
Exactly.
Right. Well, okay. So if you could say, like, overall, how did my addiction? Because you can talk for you and Dad. How did my addiction affect you and Dad, your relationship, the rest of the family?
It put a huge strain on our relationship. because your dad is he's a lot like you. He's wound very tight. He's very high strung, and he is very he's very smart, but he deals from the heart, and so he's very emotional. And I know he would get really upset, like I had to do something. And because we were codependent, your dad and I, at that point in time, I would feel like because he could not manage his feelings, he could not handle it, that I had to do something to fix it. And really, the best thing that you can do as a parent of an addict is to let them deal with the consequences of their action. Tell them in love that you will always love them, but never enable them. If they lose their job, then they lose their job. Don't let them move in with you. They're adults. If they were old enough to move out, then they're old enough to figure it out. Because I can remember us as a couple running around like lunatics trying to save your car. Like, why?
Yeah, until y'all didn't. And then it went away to the impound.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, everything eventually we learned the hard way. You guys learned through years and years and years of my active addiction, 10 years plus. Yeah. And by the end of it, you were like, this is it. We cannot save you. Right. So my car got impounded. That car was such a good car too, but I didn't need it. I was going to end up killing somebody if I kept driving around. Exactly. Okay, so now that I'm sober and living my life right, how has things changed?
Oh my God, it's like I got my daughter back. Honestly, I have a relationship with you. You have a relationship with your father. You're starting to get a relationship back with your sisters. I remember when you first got sober, you were where you were when you first started using. You were 17. You used a lot of cuss language. You were real immature. You were very emotional. You were kind of like all over the place. We couldn't talk to you because you took offense to everything. And just seeing you grow, becoming more mature, sort of catching up to your chronological age and maturing. It's been wonderful. It's been miraculous. You're a miracle, walking, talking miracle, Nicole. Because I remember, Mija. I remember when you came to Hot Springs that third time after rehab, and you called me and you were overdosing to come get you at the Shell station.
I remember that.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to take you to the emergency. No, just take me home. It's like, you could have died on me. That's how
we went to the emergency room, though, didn't we?
Yeah, we did go.
We ended up going to the emergency room because I called the ambulance at the Shell station. Yes. Then I sent the ambulance away. Then we went to the emergency room, and I was on acid and methamphetamine and opiates. It was just I drug you guys through the mud through my addiction, and the best thing that ever happened to me was going to prison. And then when I got out of prison, I relapsed. And then the next best thing that happened to me was when Nathaniel was born. And then I relapsed. And then when Nathaniel got taken away, that was like my wake-up call. And I wish I didn't have to happen. But now when I look back at it, like if you and Dad had been in Arkansas and you guys had taken Nathaniel, I probably wouldn't have got sober. Yeah. And you guys would still have Nathaniel.
Let me say this. We were wiser then. If that had been the case, you would not have been able to see Nathaniel. I would not have allowed it.
Yeah.
Because I know how detrimental that would have been to him. He's very sensitive.
He is. He's just like me and his daddy.
Yeah.
Well, Mom, I really thank you. Is there anything that you want to say to everybody on the Real Talk Recovery channel? They all know who you are, so.
Well, I pray for all of you guys, and I watch. Periodically, I pop in, and I just want everybody to know that everybody's journey is different, and there's no right or wrong. Can't give up. Every day is the next day. The next minute is an opportunity to succeed. Don't give up. Even when your family is not kind to you. Sometimes your friends that you pick when you're recovering become your family.
Yeah.
But you can make it. It's not always easy. It's not always perfect. But it's better one day sober is better than your best day high. It really is. Because people know you. When you're sober, we know you. When you're high, you're just not there. You're not connected.
So never give up.
Never give up.
All right, Mom, I love you. Thank you.
No, I love you too.
Okay, guys, thank you, and I'll talk to y'all later.